Welcome back to another episode of Today in Space. Thank you for joining us. I'm your space science podcast host from the East Coast, Alex G. Orfanos. In this quick episode, we're diving into some practical tech advice. Since I am, after all, an engineer by training, I really like efficiency, and I like tech that helps me do more than I can do as just one human. This week, let's talk about AI. I've become a pretty consistent user of it, and I do talk a lot to people about it. There's a lot we could talk about with AI, and I do have a lot of deeper thoughts on it, so I can definitely do that in another episode if you're interested. But for this week, let's focus on practical tech with AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. With more and more people using AI, and others choosing to opt out entirely, whatever your side is on this episode is for you. So let's dive in. The good, make AI your partner in your productivity. To me, the best scenario that humanity and AI are going to have together is as partners. For me, the best example of that is a game that I played as a young teenager on Game Boy Advance called Megaman Battle Network. Still lives rent-free in my head, and it's totally informed how I think about AI. And so in the game, if you haven't played it, humans live in a 21st century world where everything is connected to the internet. And this was in 2001 to 2004. So at that time, it wasn't obvious that that was going to happen. So it's kind of funny thinking of it back then. Humans would use these net navis with their devices and they would connect to everything because everything's connected online. You could plug in and use anything. And these net navis were basically your avatar to make things happen for you. It's a great way to personify the coding, basically, you know? And in the game, you play as a main character called Lan, hilarious. Your net navi is called Megaman.EXE. And then the team would go together and you'd play around, plugging in and investigating crimes done by the group called WWW. And aside from being a great real-time tactical RPG, I really see the net navis as the AI tools of tomorrow. Not today, because the AI tools are not there yet, but they could be like NetNavis, helping us access everything online and making use of it in unique ways that we as just one human couldn't. And so that's how I think about AI tools. It's my partner in doing things and getting things done, not necessarily replacing me and just taking the work off my plate so I can retire and do nothing on an island. I would get bored very easily. So that's why I choose the partner aspect of it. But the key there, as well as the do everything for me option, is to not lose my humanity in the process. Now, the last episode I did on AI tools, I talked about something very specific, the time savings and cost savings that it was doing for my creative process for the podcast. And a lot of that's still important today, but nowadays, here's what I use AI routinely for. Number one, writing podcast templates, right? So I'll give Grok or ChatGPT, I kind of bounce between both, a bunch of context on the episode that I want to make, kind of like my notes on, hey, I want to do this podcast. Here's my point. Help me write a template for this. But then I can jump in and start writing. Number two, searching for articles on space stuff and anything we talk on the podcast. When I'm researching for an episode of the podcast, I can spend a lot of time looking at resources. But these days, I've started to use Grok and ChatGPT to search for articles, right? So that way I'm not doing that work. I can spend time doing something else more beneficial to the creative process. And the idea there is that I just spend less time and not get distracted as I'm searching for things. You know, I still have a note that I will, if I'm scrolling online, especially with all the space content that I'm following, I will take an article and put it into that note, and then it just kind of adds in. But this is the speed that it can do it is just amazing. So I love doing it for that. It helps me focus more on the big picture of what the episode is and what story and messages I'm trying to tell. Number three, I'm transcribing the episodes, timestamps, and basically converting my audio from complete audio to complete written in a few minutes. And that's with Otter.ai, which transcribes the episode and identifies speakers if we have guests and notices their voices. It gives a summary, an outline, and then, of course, I've got a checklist of things that it picks up on during the meeting, and I can look back at that. I think even if it's only 9 95% accurate of transcribing the entire audio of the episode. That's still 95% of the work done of transcribing, which I tried to do back in the day and almost took on some jobs doing transcription work. Man, that it's just such a better use of time. So I love that tool. Number four, generating clips for social. I'm sure if you guys follow the podcast and follow us online, you can see how many clips we're putting out because of that. It's really nice. I've talked about it in the other episode. Removing 8 to 12 hours a week of what I was doing per episode to find the clips myself after editing the full episode was a lot of work. 8 to 12 hours have been saved a week because of that. And then I basically get 8 to 30 clips every time I generate it. And I can do better, but there's captions, right? I can get more specific if I want to, which is a cool upgrade. But, you know, adding the captions was a huge plus originally. And now I'm watching it get better like every month, which is really, really cool. But really for me, the bonus there is that I'm able to spend more time on the messaging and how like put together and engaging the clips are, because it is science, and it can easily get sucked into a bucket of this is boring. So anything I can do to liven it up from the original thing in those clips is great. And I just didn't have the time for that before. And so as far as the good for AI, I choose AI tools that help enhance a skill that I already have, or it fills a gap in a skill set of something I am not good at. And so for me, the skill gap that AI is helping me with is that structured writing and I are not friends. And that's been the case for a very long time. It's always been like that. And in growing up in school, I hated English class until I had a great teacher about my junior year of high school that helped me find my own creative writing. And basically, it's writing in the same tone as I speak, right? So in a lot of ways, that's why I was not good at English, because I was writing as I spoke, which I guess is not a thing. But I guess that's why I podcast. And funnily enough, one of the reasons that had me go to school for aerospace engineering was that I wasn't going to have to do all the writing that you'd have to do with other majors. And boy, was I wrong. There's still a ton of writing in engineering, but it's at least a specific set of writing that eventually I got good at, or good enough, and for the podcast, I spent years, a decade really, using the skill that I do have, the gift of gab, to create and put out over 380 episodes of a space science podcast. And for many, many years, I would podcast off the top of my brain, like literally off the dome. And it wasn't because I thought it was cool. It was because I was so bad at writing that it was actually easier and faster to just do my research, write a few notes to myself, basically like a napkin of notes, put like maybe a word map of the big topics that I was doing, and then I would wing it, right? It's not a very efficient way of doing it, but it worked. And I did learn and gain a ton of skill in just speaking and communicating, especially complex ideas. When I had to, off the top of my brain, explain something very complicated in hopefully an easier to understand, simpler way, I had to do that a lot. And so that was a huge skill to learn. But again, that same skill, the double-edged sword of that was that some episodes would just become a galactic pain in the ass to edit and produce because I went off on some tangent that was good, but now I've tripled my editing time for all the stuff I had to add in. And that was just breaking me after a while, to be completely honest. And so when ChatGPT came along and I realized I could just ask for a template, like for an emerging, I would say, generate me a template for an engaging YouTube video about 5 to 15 minutes long. There was a big eye-opening moment for me. That's when I realized how bad my skill of structured writing was. Like, if a skill set score could be out of 10, I have no shame in telling you that on the best day, my structured writing skill is a 3. But, asking for the structure so that then I can just share my thoughts, then edit it, and it helps me get the job done faster. That was huge. And I was the weakest link in that part of the skill set. And ChatGPT and Grok are the bridge that gets me over the ravine and back into creative podcast waters way faster. So the good of AI is that it can be your partner, and together you can accomplish more than either one of you could do by yourself. And as part of how I think about AI and using it, it's about the human directing the progress. And even if it doesn't generate what you want, you can immediately know like that's not what I wanted. But if I was looking for anything and everything, now I can say, no, that's not how I want to do it. And that actually is very helpful and can just help you move forward and get things done instead of ruminating over every possible way that you could do something. So that's, to me, the great good of AI today. And now it's time for the bad. I have two things. The potential of AI and the reality of AI tools are two very different things. As a regular user, I love finding new ways to use it and for it to help me out, but some projects or tasks are real black holes of effort, time, and energy, and you can easily waste a few hours just prompting the right way. And perfectionists beware. AI is not there yet for every task, and the more you learn how to use it, the deeper you may think about using it, and that's where it leads us down the path where many, many hours can be spent testing. And my advice for anyone that is in that mode of how can I use this? I'm excited about it. Give yourself a time limit when you're testing something new with AI tools. I think 30 minutes is plenty. And, it can be exciting to see what it can do, but if your goal is to like replace yourself entirely out of the process or have it program something for you, be really careful at that time. You can spend 40 hours into an AI project only to realize you're only 85% of the way there that you want, and you still don't have something to take away from your time. So be careful of that. And number two, not everything that AI generates is actually useful. This is not really spoken about by the AI purists, but take it from someone doing it every day. There's still a lot for these LLMs, large language models, and agent workflows to figure out. Let's take clip generation for the podcast example, right? Every time I run an episode, there's at least 25% of the clips that are just not good. It's too short, the cut was weird, the crop is off, like I'm not even in the video, it's like the background of the studio here. So that's not good. And then for image generation for the podcast content, for B-rolls, or even like lead generation for EG3D and the part detective, there's just a lot of junk and things that it just decides to do that I didn't ask for. So like for image generation, there could be one thing wrong, like it spelled a word wrong, and you ask it, all right, I love this, but you said this text, I want it to read this. It'll regenerate it, and sometimes it'll just make a completely new image and do something else you didn't like. So then you're just going back and forth trying to get it to work, where if you had just drawn it in the first place, it's whatever direction you want it to go in. Or maybe you then take that picture and edit it, right? Like there are faster ways to do it instead of just having the AI do everything. And that's where people get caught. And for the part detective and generating leads, like it actually can find some really interesting leads that I wouldn't have thought of, but it'll also generate a list and just put information in there. And it's like not right. Right? Like it's like a different company name and a different website, or, it just will put information in there because it was asked to give information. And like a human way, it's kind of like lying and implying just to get the task done, but to not personify it, it's doing what it was asked to do, but it doesn't necessarily know that it's doing something wrong. And that's the bad. And now for the ugly. When AI gives you blind spots that you didn't have before. So when you first start using AI tools, it feels a lot like the singularity, right? Like a massive gravitational disturbance of your interest because now you realize the potential, right? And for the thoughtful of us, been careful to not use it for things that are at like an indispensable skill, right? Like for me, critical thinking, reasoning, and then like the creative process, right? The creative process is why I podcast. I don't want to get rid of that. But even the most disciplined of us AI tool users can get caught, and I did recently. I am really careful of how deep I go into it. Like I could have it create a voice for the podcast and create the tone, and I can tell it what to do, and then it could just start doing it, and I could build a voice avatar, I could find the trending topics, it could make the episodes. But I wouldn't do that. I don't want to get rid of myself from the podcast. I do the podcast because I love it. That's a blind spot that I'm aware of. But the one that I wasn't, at the start of this month, I was putting in work on an episode about the next NASA administrator, right? Jared Isaacman. I had done some research, I put the episode together in record time. I was super busy with AG3D stuff, so I didn't have time to get to it. And I put the episode out. Record time. I felt really good about it, which sometimes is hard to do, especially when it's just like a creative process. And I am the way that I am. But I really was happy with it. And when I put it out, luckily, I have a friend that reached out and said, "Hey, hasn't happened yet." I had jumped the gun and put the episode out before the actual Senate vote had happened. The confirmation vote had happened, but because I'm not like a US political expert, I missed it. And maybe I would have missed it without AI, but I would have had more time to maybe pick up on, oh, hey, the whole vote hasn't happened. Oh, the votes that are counted there are not the total amount of votes. So maybe I would have picked it up, but maybe I wouldn't have. But that was not a blind spot that I thought was going to be there. And so for me, that was the ugly, that it gave me this error that I didn't want to do. And I'm going to adapt and change the process later. I'm going to add in some time after I get the final script of the episode done of like what I want to do. I need some time to just review it and just check for any stuff that I'm missing. And it makes me think about, in this low risk scenario of releasing a podcast, right? Which is not that important in the scheme of things. But what about things that are way more important, right? Where these blind spots could be happening that nobody are looking for. What if an AI tool in the medical industry is diagnosing and it misses something that a doctor or a nurse could have picked up in 2 seconds? What if AI is being used for weather changes, right? As they're flying for navigation, and it doesn't account for something that a simple pilot could have done in a second. That's where we humans need to be careful in the gray zone of AI use cases. And it's very powerful, but we need to be really mindful of how we're growing together in the partnership, right? If AI is growing to a point where humans don't grow anymore, that's bad. And the same is opposite, right? Where it's like if these AI tools are not developed properly, maybe with some safeguards for logic and reasoning, or going against just the greed of a company wanting to have the best AI tool out there, these are things that we need to be aware of and think of. So I wanted to share my ugly case of it because people are not talking about those. I wanted to add that to the conversation. And if it can help you avoid a situation like that, then I think we're going to be in a better place for all of us. So that's it. That's the episode. Thank you for joining us. This was a practical tech edition of Today in Space. Please let us know what you think and what you're doing if you're introducing AI into your world. Are you completely against it? Are you curious but apprehensive? Or are you just all in? We want to hear from you. Email us at todayinspacepodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment below or DM us at Today in Space Pod on Instagram and X, Today in Space on TikTok, and at El Greco on X. That's my personal account. That's ELGR3CO. And hopefully soon we should be seeing another Starship orbital test flight, which will be very exciting. Wishing the team over their luck as they get ready for it. Starship is an absolute beast of a machine, and if they can figure out how to tame it, then we're going to have a really fantastic future ahead of us, specifically for human spaceflight. Make sure to check out ag3d-printing.com to see what we're doing over there at AG3D in the printing lab. Lots of projects for the Part Detective are going out very soon, and I'm going to be sharing them, and I'm pumped to show you what we've been making. If you're looking for some cool space gifts or you want to support the podcast, check out the links in the episode description. Our 3D printed James Webb Space Telescope model and the Starship and New Glenn rocket pens are out now. They make great gifts for the space nerd in your life or yourself, and you help support the podcast and everything we're doing so we can grow. And as always, the easiest thing you can do to support the podcast is to subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and like and share with others. It's free and helps a ton. We really appreciate you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Today in Space. Spread love, spread science, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next episode. See ya.